Whipple Family Misadventures Book 1. Welcome to the Parent of an Alien Hedgehog Club, Chapter 22. On Saturday, shortly after lunch, Wade opened the front door, Silver half clinging onto one of his legs as he did.
Melissa, hi. Come on in.
Melissa had called him a few hours after they got home a few days ago, and they had discussed the possibility of her watching the kids for him. He still didn't know if she would be a good fit as a full-time babysitter, but he had to go meet with Pete, and it seemed like a good opportunity to give it a test run.
This is Silver.
Wade said, putting one hand on top of his head, and with the other made a gesture behind him as she took her coat off.
And on the couch is Shadow.
Shadow had not wanted to come out of the bedroom at all when he heard about the arrangement, but Wade had finally coaxed him out, so she at least knew he was there. He already warned Melissa that Shadow would most likely be silent the entire time. Currently, the darker hedgehog was eyeing her suspiciously.
Why is your hair purple?
Melissa leaned down toward him.
Well, I love the color purple, and I thought it would look pretty. So I decided that I wanted to dye my hair that color.
Wow, I want to do that.
Okay, I'll be back in about an hour. The emergency numbers are on the fridge. No TV for either of them at the moment. Anything else?
Where are you going?
Just running errands.
He said as he picked up his own coat and the rest of his cold weather gear. There was no reason either of them needed to know exactly what he was doing.
Then why can't we come with you?
Because Melissa came all the way over to see you guys, and you hate coming to run errands.
Wade said and nudged Silver gently.
Go show her your Legos.
After a second, the gray hedgehog went off in the direction of their bedroom. Melissa offered him a reassuring smile.
We'll be fine here, don't worry.
He would, not that he said that out loud. It was difficult leaving his kids with the babysitter, knowing they'd be with someone else who wasn't him. But Wade didn't have much of a choice. It wasn't like he could show up to this highly tense meeting with his estranged father and bring the two of them along, or to work with him constantly.
You guys be good and listen to Melissa. I'll see you later.
He seriously hoped he'd come back from this with good news and not life-changing horrible news. The previous night, Wade had to take a sleeping pill just to be able to get any sleep. His mind was turning itself over with how badly this could go. Even with the medicine, he still felt like he slept poorly. He had no idea what was going to happen, but Wade knew no matter what, he would protect his kids at all costs. Earlier that day, he had called Pete and they had decided to meet at a coffee house on Main Street. The term decided was being used loosely because Pete had all but ordered him to go there. At the moment, Wade had no idea what the other man wanted, but didn't feel like he was going to get an apology or end with them hugging each other and promising to stay in touch or come visit soon. When he pulled up in the parking lot and got out of his car, he almost immediately spotted Pete standing in the lobby, sipping from a traveling mug. He looked almost bored, like this was just another day for him. Of course he did. It wasn't like he had a lot riding on how this would go. Taking several deep breaths, Wade worked through his calming exercises for several minutes before he got out of the car and walked in. Pete strangely lit up when he saw him, as if he was happy to see him.
Wade,
Hi, can we do this outside?
in this cold weather?
Absolutely.
Well, there weren't a lot of people inside of the coffee shop. He didn't want to have a private conversation there. It might have been freezing outside, but it was better than people listening in and gathering gossip. Stepping outside, Pete visibly shivered.
Ugh, I do not miss this weather. How do you stand it?
I'm used to it.
Are you going to get coffee?
Not right now. It's too late in the day. There's more important things to discuss anyway.
After wiping the snow away, Pete did the same before he took out a manila envelope. He stared to say something, but Wade didn't hear it. He stared at the envelope in disbelief before he reached out and snatched it, opening it to peer inside. As he suspected, He knew exactly what it was.
This is mine. You took it from my house.
Pete didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed, reaching out to try and take it back.
Those aliens of yours gave it to me.
They don't even know this exists. You broke into my house and went through my things and decided to take this?
I did not.
Then you should have made sure to close the door all the way behind you.
When Pete hesitated for just a fraction of a second, Wade scowled and kept talking.
You know, I could arrest you right now. Not have you arrested. I could arrest you. I'm a police officer.
You are?
Yes.
Well then, I'll tell the judge and everyone else that I did not break into your house. Your little aliens invited me in. And I'll say that specifically.
There was a long, ugly, uncomfortable silence. Slowly, Wade took out the papers and searched through them, checking to make sure they were all there. It took him almost 3 minutes, but he verified that they were all there and then tucked them back away.
Fine. We won't do that. Especially since I got this back.
Yes, besides, just think of it as it never happened. Those alien things gave that to me. That's what happened.
Pete said with a sardonic smile, like he knew he had the upper hand. Frowning, Wade said nothing and just looked at him. For so much of his childhood, his father leaving was a deeply painful and miserable moment for him. Even as he got older and understood more of what happened, the thought had always nagged at the back of his mind, never leaving, haunting him for years. It had been Wade's fault that he left. Had it been Wade's fault that he left? Even as an adult who knew logically it wasn't, and it had nothing to do with him, the idea was still there. Until a little bit, when he had been talking to Silver and the little hedgehog admitted himself, he still thought about his birth parents and wondered where they went and if they were still alive. If they would come back and want him again. At that moment, the answer had been so easy, especially because he was on the outside and didn't have any emotional investment in those people. And telling Silver that, Wade might as well have been talking to himself. Pete had never beat him, never made him feel afraid for his or even his mother's own safety, never screamed at him until he felt worthless. The man had paid child support faithfully, and during the few years he still had contact, had called every now and then. But it didn't make him a good father. Pete was an inconsiderate man who put his own wants ahead of everyone else's, who was deeply self-centered and would always make sure he was taken care of first, and then would think about everyone else. Even now, he was actively working to try and make things worse, not even attempting to try and fix anything. He hadn't changed in the slightest in 30 years. Pete had wanted to leave and didn't see a reason to stay, even at the expense of his child. Now that he had kids of his own, Wade couldn't imagine how his own father had ever done it. He did understand that the situation was a bit different, since he didn't have a spouse and was literally the sole caregiver for them. But how did a person just leave their own children? Not wonder how they would take it, how upset they would be. The thought was literally unfathomable to him. They were his sons, and he would crawl over broken glass to get them back. For such a long time, Wade had been terrified that he would turn into Pete and just be like him. But this moment proved he was nothing like him.
Thank you for letting me know I've been making the right choices all this time.
What?
Now why are you here? Why did you come all the way to Montana?
My health hasn't been that good for the last few months. It's been a really rough time. I'm not fully sure what's going on, but I wanted to come to talk to you. Try and make things up, in case things go south.
And you thought the best way to do that was by trying to manipulate me and make ambiguous threats against me and breaking into my house to steal from me? You thought all that was a good idea and that it would help? I'd say I can't believe the fact that you'd act like this, and I'm surprised it was something about you. that made you decide after all these decades to come see me. But honestly, I can.
I wanted to talk to you earlier, but your mother wouldn't let me.
Even if that is true, which I doubt, I've been an adult for 2 decades now. You had plenty of time to contact me, but you didn't. It's only when something big happened to you that you finally thought about me again. Which is the entire reason why I stopped talking to you. And now, all you've done is try and manipulate me and give me stupid excuses, not an apology.
I'm sorry.
Thanks for telling me.
That's it?
Yes, that's it. I'm sorry you're sick, but it doesn't change my mind about how you've treated me ever since you walked out.
I broke up with your mother. I found someone else.
I don't care about that. I care that you went off and found yourself a new girlfriend in a new state and started a whole new life and decided I wasn't important enough to be a part of it. Yes, you paid child support and called me on my birthday and a few holidays every year. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted my dad when I was a kid and you weren't there. You made the decision to leave me out. You did that. You can't walk away from me and then be upset that I didn't sit there and wait literal decades for you to come back like a loyal dog.
Wade did not mean to say all that. It hadn't been planned or prepared in any way. But the second he started talking, it just came spilling out. So many years of pain and resentment. And that was all he wanted to say for so long. Pete's downturned expression was one that suggested that he had not believed this conversation would go this way.
I did it. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you apologized, but it doesn't change anything about the last 30 years.
Is there anything I can do?
After all you just did? Actually, you know what? There is. Go back to your home and your wife, and just leave me and my kids alone. That's what you can do.
That's really what you want?
Yes.
It started to snow again. Big, fat flakes that fell hard and fast. The kind that made the rest of the world seem to disappear. But Wade didn't take his eyes off his estranged father.
Fine.
Thank you. This talk was very informative. Now, I need to get back to them.
To those weird aliens? Are you fully sure that it's safe to be around them?
Those weird aliens are my children and are more my actual family than you'll ever be. Yes, I'm going home to them, and yes, they are safe to be around. They are just kids who just want to do kid things.
You cannot seriously be under the delusion that those spiky alien creatures that are more your family than your own flesh and blood. I am your father.
That's one thing I talked about with my kids, actually. Just because you're not related to someone doesn't mean you can't be family, and it works the other way as well. Blood doesn't make you family. Being biologically related to me doesn't make you my family. You gave that up when you abandoned me. Have a nice day and a nice life, Pete.
He shut the car door and turned on the engine and drove away. It was tempting, but he didn't look back. To his surprise, he was a little sad about the decision he just made. Instead of trying to shove it away, Wade let the feeling come and sat with it for a few minutes, trying to figure out why. And then he knew. It was difficult knowing he would never have a relationship with his biological father, or just the fact that the man wasn't a good person. There was a small, mostly childish piece of him that was still wanted that wanted his father to not be a jerk and to be able to have him in his life. But it was the adult part of him that knew the relationship he wanted was never, ever going to happen with Pete. And chasing after it would only end in more pain. Instead, Wade would go home, hug both of his sons tightly, and be a dad who was a million times better than Pete could ever dream of being.